Right, I think everything is working and running properly. Yeah, that seems to be all in order. Right, hello again for part 3 of this build session. I'll just turn that down so it's not distracting me. Right, so we're going to carry on doing some more building on this HAW-206 Mark IV. With some control input issues. Right, and last time we set up the basics of a walk cycle, so it could walk forwards and stop and reset all the legs. And now the next thing is to set up the reverse functions so it can walk backwards. And the way I do that is by setting up an almost identical set of controllers, hence why there's a forward and reverse for each leg. And the reverse ones work in much the same way. They rely on a light turning on and off, except when this one watches the light turning on and off, it does the opposite. So it can move backwards. Leg light FL01. So first thing we want to do actually, before we start messing with all of these, is turn all of the forward ones off. And then we can turn all of the reverse ones on, so they will actually do stuff. Right. So we want leg front left 01 to move in the reverse way. So it's got a light, and when it turns on, it will reset the velocity, then increase the velocity, and when it turns off it will reset the velocity and decrease the velocity. Right. And when it turns off, it also needs to reverse the second hinge, which is that one there. So that lifts up and drops back down, and hopefully that is all I need to do to make that work properly. Yep, there we go. Lifts up, drops down, pushes forward, lifts up, drops down, or pushes backwards rather. There you go, simple as that. So we shall do the same for the next set. That wants to be block switched on and off. Leg light, front right 01. Leg FR. That's left it. Oh, that's from when we messed it up yesterday. Let's just start again. Reset. Velocity. Increase. Reset. Decrease. The reason I use the velocity reset and increase and decrease functions instead of just reversing is because unless you take a lot of care to make sure where all of your reverse functions sit and how they affect things, it can mess stuff up and get very confusing, especially if you've got overlapping systems. Unfortunately, due to the limitations of the way taskbar actions work, you can only increase or decrease the velocity of hinges, well, small grid hinges, in increments of 6 RPM at a time. So it can either be 6, or it can be 12, or it can be 18, or 24, blah 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 blah. So I use 6 for now, because it's the best option I've got. I would love it if Keen would add the option for smaller increments, like 1, because if I needed it to increase by more than 1 and I didn't have enough spaces in this toolbar, I could just add a timer, because a timer's got a heck of a lot more. Well, it's got the same amount, but you can stack them better, and it doesn't take up all the slots in your event time, in your event block. But I digress. Anyway, back to what we were doing. Right, that should be all it needs for the front right leg to walk in reverse mode. Let's check that. Lifts up, drops down, pushes back. Lifts up, drops down, pushes back. Cool. There we go. And then the next one. Now this is the boring side of making mechs. Is doing all the fiddly stuff. The cool fun bit is designing it and making it look sweet, but half the battle is making it all work, which can get complicated. But this is why I am so in love with the event blocks since they came out, because rather than having to rely on mathematics and timer blocks and hoping you've got everything right, you can set precise-ish parameters to trigger things, rather than just hoping that you've got all of your timing perfect. Leg light, RL rather, 0, 1. Right. Leg, RL. So for this one, reset, increase, reset, decrease, and then we want it to reverse when the light turns on. So in theory, the right leg, right rear leg should now move properly. Lifts up, pulls back, lifts up, pushes back. Sweet. And then rear right. Block on, off. Leg light. R01. Select actions. Leg RR. Reset. Increase. Reset. Decrease. Reverse. Now that should work as intended. There we go. So now if I turn all of these off and turn all the forward ones back on and flick all of these lights, I know they're not moving in the right pattern, but they are moving in the right way, each individual leg. So there you go. Front mode and rear mode. Right. Walk. Now, quickly, how did we set up? Forwards on wheel control. Wheel control on, wheel control off. There's a gap here because there's a function I'm going to stick in there later. Precise timers trigger, just because it's always good to have the precise timers block triggered whenever you get the opportunity, just in case something messes up. Because I've noticed if you exit the game and reload, the precise timers trigger will seemingly default back to not working and not like stop. So it's always good to have the walk cycle trigger it, because it's so vital to it walking quickly. Anyway, enough rambling. Ah yes, so that, again, this is another thing about timer blocks that a lot of people may or may not know. Timer blocks trigger things in order from page 1, slot 1, all the way through to 0 and 9. So the order that you put things into timer blocks can have an effect on the way things function. So if you want something, if you want conflicting conflict, the best idea is to turn off the thing that's going to cause the conflict first in your cycle, and then have the thing that you want working and functioning to turn on afterwards. Because otherwise, if the forward event blocks turned on before the reverse event blocks turned off, there'd be a brief window where they're both active at the same time, and the lights that control the legs turning on and off would get very confused. So we turn that stuff off first, and then turn on the thing we want to work second. Right, where were we? Right, so leg controllers, we want all of these forward ones to turn off. Oh, hang on. Forward, off, reverse. There we go. If I just type in forward, there we go. Yeah, that makes it much easier. Right, that turns all of them on. This again is why naming conventions when you're building complicated things comes in really handy, because you can just type a few keywords in there and it'll reduce it down to the bits you actually need. Alright, let's just compare notes, and then we need to turn on walk start. Right, simple. Walk start, turn that on, and then we'll start it. And then the last thing was the suspension. And there's a reason I'm resetting this to suspension to 0. Because when I add in Whip's subgrid wheel control script, there can be conflict when I switch between walk mode and drive mode. Because Whip's subgrid wheel control script relies on sending propulsion override signals to the wheels and if you've sent a signal and then turn off the script, those wheels are still driving whichever direction it was told to drive. So if I suddenly switch between drive mode and walk mode, I'll end up scooting along the ground really quickly as I walk because the wheels are still driving forwards or backwards. So when I activate those walk directions, I reset all the wheels back to 0 so that the wheels aren't doing anything. I hope that makes sense. Right, anyway, so suspension. Reset. This all might change because I might change those feet later. The original design appears to have 4 wheels on each foot anyway, so I'm probably going to change those feet at some point in the future, but that is just for now, so you can see how this walk cycle works. Right, now, with that setup, in theory, I have got a button for turning on the reverse mode. See if it's working properly by doing a few things. Like that. In fact, let's get rid of them because we don't need them. Walk reverse. Walk forward, walk reverse, walk off. Switched off. Put that there, and put the walk cycle there. So these are all the functions. You've got walk forward, walk reverse, walk stop, or walk off. And these are some of the key points that they will trigger as they're working. And hopefully it all works properly. So if we push walk forward, you can see there that it turned on the walk start, which then triggers the walk cycle and turns on the walk gyro and the walk forward mode. And then if we hit stop, it resets and turns everything back off except for walk forward mode. And if we hit walk reverse, there you go. It's turned on the walk cycle, it's turned on the walk gyros to help it balance. It's turned off the forward event controllers and turned on the reverse controllers. And we hit stop again. It all resets back to where it should be. Right, so we do a quick copy and paste. Delete that. Xbox pad. Right, there we go. So, ignore the jiggle for now, that's just the wheels having a fit. So, there we go. We are walking forwards. And we can turn with the gyro setup we did yesterday, that still needs a bit of tweaking. We can stop, it reverses everything, and we have a reverse mode. And it can walk backwards and forwards. And we hit stop, and it reverses all the legs, it resets everything back to where it should be. We need to work on that leg jiggle. I think it's just the wheels being in awkward positions because they're not actually in the position they're supposed to be in right now. But that can all be fixed later. Oh yeah, we need to sort that issue out because we're still popping into the chassis when we jump out the pilot seat. We need to fill that space. There you go, it can walk forward, it can walk backward with a very rudimentary setup. So, the next thing to do really is to set up the manual controls to make it walk using the W and S keys, or just forward and backward input. And for that we need 3 little thrusters, and we need to decide where we want to put them. A lot of the time I usually put them on the outside because there's not a lot of room to work with on the inside, but this one is quite a large pack, so we can probably tuck them away inside without the risk of them damaging anything. The question is, where would we like to put them? So if I put them too close to the pilot seat, you'll be able to hear them when it's moving. And it's a bit annoying when you've got thrusters burning right next to your face. We could tuck them in at the back. We could even tuck them in down here somewhere. No, I don't really fancy having a thruster pointing at a reactor. You know what? For now, we shall no, we'll tuck them in there, because 3 blocks is way more than that's going to move. one there, we've got one there, and then we shall have the reverse thruster. There for now. So, name these. Manual walk thruster reverse. Manual walk thruster forward. And manual walk thruster override. And that one gets to have a little bit of thrust override on it. The reason for that being the manual control walk system relies on the thrust output of that thruster and that thruster. And I've had issues in the past with the way the thrusters work dynamically when you're moving a grid around, but not actually using the thrust control. Like if you're using gyro control to swing your mech around, the inertial dampeners will kick in, which will cause the thrusters to fire, which will cause the walk mode to trigger. There are two ways of getting around that. So you can either turn off inertial dampeners altogether, or you can set up a thruster in the same direction as the thrusters you're having issues with and give it a little bit of thrust override. That will counter the issues that come from that, and you still get to have inertial dampeners on for, say, if you wanted thrusters on the side, the top or the bottom, or whatever. You still want to use inertial dampeners in a direction. Anyway, less of the rambling again. Right. Bear with me a second. I just need to check something. Anyway, back to where we were. Right, so we've got the thrusters. We've got a control thruster. I think I set up. Yes, I did. I set up the event blocks that I need already. So we go down to thrust. We want it to be greater than, anything's better than 0. So we'll just go with 50% for now. Manual thruster forward. And so the parameters for this one is we want to turn on the, yeah, again, this is where it gets complicated. And it's a good distinction between using event blocks for things and using timer blocks for things. Timer blocks are great for performing actions and doing things, whereas event blocks are better for telling timer blocks when to do those things. And the great thing about the two is you can turn them both on and off. So if you can set up entire complicated systems that do all sorts of mad things, and then if you want it to, you can just turn that first one in the chain off, and as long as nothing else is triggering any of those blocks in that sequence, that whole system is off as far as the grid is concerned. So with that in mind, when I set up these manual walk control thrusters, rather than just triggering that when it turns on, triggering it again when it turns off, which you can't do in the same 2 slots, you have to move to a second one, I turn the blocks on and off, so that when it's off you cannot accidentally trigger that walk cycle at all. So on, off, and trigger. So when you push, so now it's set up, when you hit forwards on the thruster, it will turn on that block and trigger it. When you release forwards on the button, it will turn it off altogether. I'll do the same thing with the reverse setup. Thruster, reverse, 50% just because whatever, and then walk, rev. So we turn that on, we turn that off, and we trigger that. And one thing I also forgot is when we release the thruster, we also want it to trigger the walk off function. So for that we want walk off to function the other way around. So we have walk off. We want that to turn off. We want it to turn off when the thruster fires. We want it to turn on when the thruster stops. And we want it to trigger itself when it stops. And we'll do the same for here. Walk off. We want it to turn off there. On there. And trigger there. So in theory, now when I hit forwards, the legs should start moving. There we go. And when I release it, they reset. And when I press reverse, the legs do the opposite. And there we go. And just to show you how those thrusters are working in here, that one's firing the front legs, that one's firing the rear legs, and the one at the back is making sure the two don't behave erratically when the grid moves around. And you can see the gyros that control the balance turning on and off. There we go. Yeah, I really need to deal with that. I need to put some more stuff in here. It does need some cargo containers for all the ammunition, which I can probably squeeze into these two gaps, so we will do that in a minute. Thank you. Give that another quick test. Delete some of these leftover batteries. Do. Delete that. Nope. Yeah, we need to increase the strength on those legs. They keep buckling every time they land. So, theoretically, I hit forwards. There we go. Go on, legs. You can do it. Yeah, we need to increase the strength of them a little bit. Oh yeah, there we go. That is me just hitting forwards on the keypad. And that's me hitting reverse on the keypad. So now I have a WASD control system. So I'm hitting W to move forwards, I'm hitting A to turn left. Now I'm hitting D to turn right, and I'm hitting S to walk in reverse. Yeah, right. We're sorting that out now. That's driving me mad. Right. We need to fill this gap. We also need to put something in there. You know what? I will just do what I always do and just fill it with timer blocks. Because I like the pretty lights. Still not quite happy about that conveyor route for this air vent. I might change that at some point, but we'll leave it for now until it becomes a problem. This cockpit shouldn't be too far off pressurised. Obviously it's not fully pressurised, as you can see from there. gaps there that's the issue right now. But we'll come to that. Oh, and this big gap here. We'll come to that later. For now, we desperately need to get some storage space in here. That's too big. There's plenty of space in here. It's just a question of where do I actually want to put it. I'm going to try and not use that gap down there. Well, you need to fill the space for a start, because this is an issue I had with, well, an issue I've had with every previous incarnation of this mech, because of the way the cockpit sits and the general shape of it inside. Rather than the game popping you out the top, it usually pops you into the big void at the back, inside the mech. So I almost always end up having to fill it a little bit with stuff just to stop you getting stuck in the back of it. So for now, we'll just do the same trick I've always done. Stick one of them in there on either side. Then we can think about storage for weapons. Ammunition. I want to try and keep the weight as central as possible, so that's the middle. Pop that there like that. Still in line with the centre. Yeah, that'll do for now. And now we just need to connect it all up. Right, so that's connected there. And I like to have redundancies, just because why not? Well, that is going to have to be one of these ugly connectors. would very much enjoy it if Keen would give us a few more options for these reinforced conveyor tubes, because they're bloody brilliant. We've only got 3. There's a whole host of shapes you could have out there. Right, that is some ammunition storage piped in. Are you still going to kick me out into the back of the mech when I get out of the pilot seat? Let the door close. Yes, now you're just kicking me out here instead. Into this gap. Right. Fine. In that case, what if I stick one simple redundant conveyor path right through the centre of there? You know what? I'll make it drop up there. Right. Oh, my OCD is going to drive me mad if I don't make that. A sort of mirror on this side. There we go, that's slightly better. Right. You're still going to mess with me. And let it close, and hey. I'd rather it throw me out the top than throw me into the back. Alright, that's way better. Right then, what should we do next? What was going to be next? Oh yeah, these feet. And the leg position in general. These hinges need to be stronger. Yeah, they're 10 on this one. Yeah. Let's make them all 10 million then. that's forward. That's reverse. Right. And as you can see, from the inside of the cockpit, you can see everything ticking away. You can't quite see the ones behind me. Sort of can. This is why I like having all the lights and timers and things on the inside, so you can see everything blinking away as you press the buttons. It makes it feel more like an actual machine. Why is that leg jiggling? Yeah, just space engineers being space engineers. Right. Yeah, these feet. I want to do all of these feet. I want to change them up a bit. Has 4 wheels on each. Is there a better way? Or even just a more interesting way? I can make these feet. Unfortunately, we still don't have a proper block to fill this gap. I know people have made mods for it, but really, it's something Keen should have done. It's very frustrating. So, problem here is if I do what I want to do, I think we're doing a toe there and the toe there. Those wheels are going to be on a really extreme angle. make a more wobbly overall. But I have done it with other designs. Well, let's try it. Let's see what happens. Take that off there. Add that bracket there. Put that on there. Won't be able to turn the wheels in the correct direction. How did I do it on the Devil Walker? Oh, that's why I had individual rotors on each foot or each suspension. That's how I did it. That's what I want. Nope. That looks crap. Could possibly do it like that. It'll make Clang very happy. You know what? Why not? Why not? Why not just go real silly with it? We will, of course, have to figure out angles and incorporate this rotor into all the walk mechanics. But that shouldn't be too hard. So all those rotors pointing in the right direction. And let's grab the beautiful little thing we do need to check is it's pointing the right direction, which unfortunately it's hard to tell with this particular wheel which way you're facing. Unless you add a little bit. See, it's backwards. There we go. There we go, it's the right direction. What am I doing? I need to go to there. Yeah, that's facing the right direction. Let's put them on there in the good faith that they're facing the right direction as well. Yep, sound. Right, cool. All those wheels are pointing in the correct direction. Right. Suspension. Rotor FL 01. Do that. That. And we will figure out the angles in a minute. Strength for now. Steering angle 0. I don't want it to have any steering angle. All the turning is going to come from the gyro. Or actually, no. We will keep the steering angle for now. Because the wheels turning should help. Speed limit. So that's a 54 for now. Height offset. Now, that's a question. We'll call it 0 for now. Let's see how well that works. Fuel. That's 0.2. Call that 0.3. That can be 2. That can be 3. And that can be 4. Doesn't look too hideous. What have we? Yeah, seeing as this mech is bigger than the other one, you know what, that doesn't look too far out of scale. So, that leg is at 45 degrees when it's pointing forward. So, in theory, I'm looking at the wrong wheel, that's why. So, increasing, turns it that way. So, theoretically, minus 45, I think, I'm getting the math right. Probably not. Wheel turn all the way around, one way. It's alright. So now this wheel should be pointing forwards. Yeah, cool. Copy all but the name. Right. So those wheels are all pointing forward now. Cool. Quite like that. Right. Quickly, just so we know which way we're facing. That is the front of that foot. Rather than rebuilding and renaming all that stuff all over again. I'm just going to chop it off here. Oh, smack. I'm pretty sure that was the front, the actual wheels are pointing that way. Right, cool. Oh, that might be the source of the wobbling actually. The end of that hinge might be, the end of that rotor might be conflicting. Right. It's not powered though, so it doesn't matter. I'll exit 25. In fact, it should be the lower limit that's 25. Oh, I need to turn that hinge around. Don't I? Yes, I do. So yeah, I want the lower limit to be minus 35. The upper limit to be minus 25, I think. Yes, because when that leg lifts, that'll, yeah, that's the one. So that in turn wants inertia tensor on. Right, so that should now be a case of just replicating that on these. So hinge pointing out, pointing out. Right, cool. That can go there. That can go there. It's not jiggling. FR03, R03, copy settings, paste. Yeah, jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. There you go. So, just in case anything's got messed up in the meantime. That's the outside one. And that's a point. Those wheels are pointing out that direction. I'll just do the maths to get them to point the right way. Right, so that was minus 45, minus 45. So these ones should be 45. Yep, cool. One. Zero, three. And 04. Turn these 90. That's not enough. Whereas if it's 135, which is 345s, that seems to be the right direction. Oh, for God's sake. 135. Copy all. That should be pointing forwards. Sweet. That works. That was 03. And that was 4. Right. So in theory, this just wants to be minus 135. And that should now be pointing forwards. Cool. Right, that works. RL01, everything seems right. Copy all. Hang on, that was number 3. And number 4, and I've just realised I also need to rename all the suspension, which is dull. RL03. Right, that is all the feet rebuilt. Just double check that I named all the hinges properly. Yeah, right. So, adding the new hinges into the walk mode should be as simple as just adding an extra reverse function for FL03 after FL02. So all I should have to do is pop that there. That there. There you go, you can see that hinge moving and staying level with the floor as it walks. Because it's moving in tandem with the second hinge. And all the other legs and all the other wheels have got weird angles. Right, cool. Right, we just got to do that for all of these other ones. Leg, front right. Reverse. Leg, front right. Left leg, front right, reverse, RL, maybe. That's correct. Yeah, he is doing the rear leg. Leg, RL, reverse. Right, so now everything. Yeah. Cool. Obviously, all these new suspensions have got their friction way too high. Oh, that's annoying. Yeah, bring that down to 25. See what that's like. There you go. Yeah, that's not too bad. It's walking around. And the reason I set the friction on the suspension to 25 is because that seems to be the sweet spot between being able to generate enough friction to actually move forwards and sliding enough to allow the wheels a little bit of drift, because at 50% the wheels will just start pinging off the floor and gripping it in horrible ways, and it just makes the mech legs very unhappy. So yeah, 25% friction is sort of the sweet spot. It can be a little bit drifty, but it's better than the wheels snagging on the floor and trying to rip themselves off. Cool, right, well, that was a good little test. Right, that's annoying me. So let's just pop that in there. Oh, I've just done it in the wrong place on that one. And that'll do that. Right, so when we go back in, suspension is all in one place. Right, cool. Suspension, let's put that back down to 25%. Right, let's set up some other controls. Like wheel control, for example. There we go. Subgrid wheel control. Oh, I know what I can do for that gap that was inside the hull. It was annoying me earlier on. We can have an event log. Yes, another one. Because now that we're using the subgrid wheel control script, we can set up a parking brake for the wheels so that it can stay put when we don't want it to move around. Like if you have to park on a slope. And for that, I want to set up a few other things. For instance, these lights from the old system. Are now going to become parking brake lights. I've got those feet set up more or less properly. Unpaint that. Right, so we've got the external lights to indicate when the parking brake is on. But we also need an interior light. You know what? We might just completely take that air vent out because I have got one down there. Indicators. Where are they? And we'll just pop another timer in that gap. There we go. Blinking lights everywhere. Looks a little bit more symmetrical with the front of the cockpit. Cool. Right. So this one. Right. So this light is now going to be the control light for the parking brake system. Let me hop back in. Let's turn that off. Turn that off because we're going to do things with them later. Right, so parking brake controller. Yeah, I've got other parking lights from the old system, but I like the new system better. I'll change them to something else. Or I might just delete them. Anyway, controller, parking brake. Is block on and off. And we need the interior parking light. When that switches on and off, it tells that to toggle the brake on and off. We put two different ones in the same slot, I can't remember. There we go. And it will also tell these lights to turn on and off. Right, so now we turn that on. It turns on all the lights on the feet, and it also turns on the parking brake mode on wheel control. And what that means is that when we have the legs, I need to reset all of them, we'll do that in a minute. This is why I left the gap here, because when we want to move forwards, we want to turn that parking brake off. So now, when we hit forwards, before anything else happens, it quickly turns the wheel control on, it turns the parking brake off, so the wheels aren't dragging or generating any propulsion in any particular direction, and then once it's done that, it turns the wheel control off again, so that directional input isn't affecting the wheels. We'll do the same on here. The mech stops. We want the parking brake to come on, and that will stop the mech rolling forwards or backwards when it stops walking. Daytime, so we see what we're doing. Copy and paste again. Let's delete these old battery setups. It's the wrong way. And now, we should walk forward. And there you go. Stop dead in its tracks. The brakes have come on. It is jiggling around a lot, that's because all the subgrids are fighting each other a little bit. Oh, and you can see there, that's what I was talking about. I've not set something up properly. Because the... Ooh. Yep. Something's not quite set up there properly, because the wheels are kicking in reverse mode, and they shouldn't be. So what have I missed? Wheel control on. Parking right off. Wheel control off. Not quite sure what's not working there. Yeah. Yep, you can hear those wheels. Yeah, and this is why we have the suspension set up to reset when we activate the walk directions, because you can get conflicts like this. And I'm not entirely sure why it's working properly in forward, but not working properly in reverse. Maybe it's just a timer issue. Anyway, we shall mitigate that now. Suspension. And if anybody is wondering why I am doing this the long and boring way, doing each individual block rather than in groups is because groups have issues sometimes with printers and copying and pasting and things like that, and if you accidentally delete a group, you can delete an entire function out of one of your systems somewhere. Or if you want to change the name of the group, you will have to go into any system that's using that group and you'll have to swap it for the new name, and it's just, it can cause problems down the line which are a big headache later on. Whereas if you just do each individual block as you do it, you can rename those blocks as much as you like and it's not going to affect anything. The only problem you'll have is if you delete that block and replace it with something else. So that's why we do it the long and boring way. Because ultimately it gives us better control. And less or fewer undesired results. There's too many wheels. Right, there we go. So now, that shouldn't cause any problems. With the wheels. Right. One thing I also need to do is I need to reset the velocity on all of those to 0. And I need to change the angle on that to -45 on there, so none of those move. Right, let's give that another test. Make sure those wheels aren't going mad. Legs at the back don't seem to be lifting enough. What is our centre of mass like? at the front. Apparently. Does it like if we walk backwards? It might just be an issue because we're so center heavy. Yeah. And if we want that to turn off and that jiggling to stop driving us mad, we can take one of the many random event blocks that I've shoved in here. Apparently I've run out of event blocks. Well, I'm gonna have to build some more then, aren't I? Right, so I've used all the ones in the cockpit. Which means I need to add some more. So, in that case, we shall add one here and one there, just for good luck. And we'll call this one controller walk brake off. And what the walk brake controller will do is look at the grid speed, and when it gets below a certain threshold, we'll call it 0.5, it will turn the parking brake off again. But we may need to fine-tune its settings to make it work properly. I'll just turn the lights out for a minute, make it easier to see if they're working properly. Then parking brake lights come on. And then they turned off. It might also help if we adjust the suspension settings a little bit. Oh, I've changed the wrong thing. I didn't change the friction, I changed the strength. Pull that back up to 50. Right, try again. There we go. Much nicer. So it walks forwards. When it stops, it slams on the parking brake to stop the wheels drifting, and then it turns off. And in reverse. Ooh, that was a bit unhappy. Well, there you go. That works nicely. Let's do a bit of tidying up. These subgrids lying around aren't going to help. So what was it? It was the suspension was the wrong way round, wasn't it? Yeah, the friction's in the wrong bloody place. And the suspension's in the wrong bloody place. Alright, there's a few other things I wanted to change, like the mech control settings. There's a few bits in this script that will interfere with stuff that I'm doing, because even when you tell it not to, it fiddles with any rotors you've got on your grid. I do need to set that up eventually as well. But that is for remote operation using a remote block. That one's part of the mech system though, so it won't be that remote block. Other things that we need to set up. We've got a walk system. We can walk forward and backward. We can turn left and right. We should probably think about the arms and the tail and the nose and all the weapons and making them work. Assessment control units yet or not? No, we didn't. We just put them in place and choose what we're going to do. Right, well, in that case, right shoulder. And that can be right elbow. Well, just level to it. So let's just double check I've named all of these parts correctly. Arm rotor, arm hinge. One thing I haven't named is the weapon itself. Gatling gun R01. And that should be everything that needs. Left elbow. This one's now I've got to sift through all of these different rotors and hinges. Arm rotor, left elbow. Arm hinge, left elbow. Camera, arm L01. Put everything down to 10 for now. I'll check to see if it's the right way around. And then we control. Got no elevation. Arm hinge, arm rotor. Let's go. That hinge, why not? Set something up on it. Everything's set up correctly, so why wasn't that moving? Elevation is the right hinge. Control. Why have I got no up or down? For a start, that's the wrong way around. Why is it not moving up or down? Because I've got two hinges called arm LE. That's why I've renamed the wrong one. Arm hinge. Yep, that's why, because it's controlling the wrong hinge. And then we go back over here and look at this. Yep, we had the wrong one selected. There we go. Why am I still not getting any up or down? Right, that's backwards. There we go. Something's not got share inertia sensor on there. That one does. There you go. That one doesn't. There we go. Nice and stable. The big circles. Up is up, down is down, left and right, or left and right. Ooh, we should probably also check that everything is piped up correctly. So if we take a bit of ammunition, pop that in there. Yep, stuff's gone into guns. Control. Left, right. See, that's why I needed to adjust the advanced walker script controls or settings, because it's made these 135 degrees in either direction, and I don't want that. I want like 10. So I just go mad. Right, there we go, that's a bit better. Of course it's going to have done the same to... Oh, not done anything to that one. There is a rotor that I've not set up properly, isn't there? Yep, I've not done that one. So what's that? 20 and 20 and 45, so that should be minus 45. No. There we go. Oh, it's a 20, not 25. Well, those are all settings we can fiddle about with later, but let's at least make them the same for now. Arm rotor, right shoulder. Displacement 11. Let's pop that out a little bit further. Let's make it 10 either side. Try and close this gap as much as I can. Without making it clang. Right. Check these hinges and rotors are set up properly as well. No, we've not done that one either. Right. Copy settings. Copy all. Yeah, it looks fine. Yeah, it looks fine. Right. Okay. Unit. Oh yeah, we need to set that as well. Well, that's simple, that's just one rotor. RS, where are you? LS, what I mean. You get to use a camera, but you don't get to use a gun. That's doing nothing, so I may as well set it to nothing. That's doing 10, I think. Control. That needs to be the other way round. Up, down. Sound. But you don't get to use a gun because that can cause issues when you want to manually control the front one and it just starts firing willy-nilly. Right, unit. Right elbow. Dum 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 dum. Rotor RE. Elevation. Hinge RE. Camera. Right arm. Gun. Right. 10 for now, and control. And everything backwards. Okay, that works fine. Elevation, rotor, arm, RS. There it is. Camera. Right arm. That can be 0. That can be 10. Just on the other side, and hopefully on the right way around this time. Yeah. And there we go. Cool. So, unit. Take all of these and have them set to targeting everything and friends and AI. And there we go, they aim and point at stuff. Although I think they're trying to point at that eyeball on the floor next to me rather than anything else. Anyway, that works. So take that off. Right. Didn't I stop? Gatling guns. Yeah, that's why I couldn't find it before. I took all the Gatling guns. Ton of blocks there that look like the wrong way around. And that's going to annoy the crap out of me. because they are the wrong way around. Luckily, I haven't used them for anything yet. There we go, that's better. There we go. So now we can have an on and off switch for each of our 4 main weapon systems. Because we've got Gatling guns, assault cannon, auto cannon, and the flare launchers. And we've got 4 timers either side, right to the front where we can see them. So let's figure out which ones of these timers I'm looking at. There's one that gets to be you know what, call it arms. On. Nah, there we go. Arms. Off. Back to setting this up later. So arms on will. Turn on the AI for each of those weapons. Actually, well, so we'll have lights. Camera. Lights, we've got cameras. And then we've got action. Guns turning on. Off. The opposite. Turn the AI off. Turn the AI on. The lights turn off. Cameras turn off. We'll have the action turn off. other thing we want to do to make these arms reset back to some kind of default position is we'll figure out what position we want them to go into. And then we'll put those settings into the off timer block. Yeah, there we go. Arms on, arms off. And as long as we put these reset settings after this turns off, there shouldn't be any interference. Arms, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces. So we want that to decrease velocity. In fact, actually, just in case, we want all of these to reset velocity first. Then we can do whatever it is that they need to achieve that angle. There we go. That looks about right. So if we turn that on, the arms kick into life. And if we turn that off, the arms reset. Give that a little test. Trigger. Doing the trick, and turn it off and reset. Turn it on, bring it to life. Turn it off, they reset. Sweet. Reset. And on the kick into life. Good. Alright, and then from there, what we do is set up what is going to be the control switch. Pop that there. Switched on and off. Oh yeah, to make this horizontal version. On and off. You can turn it on, turn it off, trigger it, turn it off, turn it on, and trigger it. That way. Now, turn this side on and off. It should arm. Activate the arm guns. There we go. Got a switch. That is also a visual indicator. What was the other one? That was the assault cannon. That was the auto cannon. Right. auto cannon. Because this is a center-facing weapon and it can pan left and right, I want it to reset to a center position. It's not going to be quite as simple, but for now, we will find the white blocks. So kind of also kind of off. We also need to set all the auto cannon stuff up. Oh yeah, because that was going to be one on the floor. Control unit. Auto cannon. Quickly check that I actually set these hinges up properly. No, I did not. Why? Oh, yeah, I know why it's got blood damage. Auto cannon rotor. Right, that one's set up. Set up properly. Auto cannon light, auto cannon gun, auto cannon camera. Yeah, so okie dokie. Auto cannon. Also got it right. Also cannon hinge. Cannon. Auto cannon. Weapon. Auto cannon. Control. Left and right and the wrong way around. Left 10, left 10. Ready. I should check that it's got a functioning conveyor system. Auto cannon magazine. Yeah, looks like some stuff's gone in there. Auto cannon. Control. Oh. Oh, well, it looks like I've messed something up. Oh, yeah, because I deleted that earlier and never put it back. That's why. Simple answer is... delete that. auto cannon control. Groovy. Right, so auto cannon on. Turns on that AI. And then it turns. Not that one. I've named that the wrong thing. Turns that on. Lights. Camera. Action. And then when it turns off, it's the same reverse. AI off. Light. Camera. Action. And then this is where things get slightly more complicated. We want that to increase. And we want that to increase. Auto cannon off. Auto cannon. Reset velocity. Reset velocity. Increase velocity. Increase velocity. Now, this is where I want one of my other random timers dotted about the place. All the timers I've got. What's that? That's directly in front of me. Do I want to be able to see it or not? Yes, but I want it to be on that side. There it is. Right, so you want this to be auto cannon reset. This to run once every 2 seconds maybe for now. And what this is going to do is it's going to reverse that rotor and trigger itself. So we got that. on, auto cannons off. And when the auto cannons are switched off, we want that to come on. Start doing its thing. And when it turns on, we want it to turn off. And there shouldn't be an issue with it being at that point in the chain, hopefully. We'll find out. So, turn that on. And let's also add friendly fire. There we go. On, it's looking at stuff. Turn it off. And now it's just moving back and forth. Which is what we want for now. However, 2 seconds is a bit slow. And even 1 second is a bit slow. So let's stick an ADV tag on it from the precise timers. Like I said before, just in case, it's always good to have a fail-safe. If you're ever using anything that relies on the precise timers script, to just chuck in a trigger now, because it doesn't hurt to kick it into gear again. There's no harm I've ever found in having multiple things triggering precise timers. In that case, we'll make that 45, because what precise timers does is it changes the timers from counting in seconds to counting in ticks, and there's, as far as I know, 60 ticks per second. So a 1 minute timer with precise timers running actually just becomes like 1 second, and one second with it on, with precise timers turned on, becomes insanely fast. So 45 should be 3/4 of a second, theoretically. There you go, it's moving slightly quicker than a second. There we go. And that is what I want. And it may look weird because it's wiggling back and forward, but you'll see why in a second. And I've got that spare event block from earlier, which I will call controller autocannon reset. And what this is going to do is it's going to look at the angle of the autocannon rotor. That's convenient. And when it gets to 0, I'm going to make it stop. So what we want to do is make it slightly less. Than 0, because I've noticed if you try and get things to stop on 0, it gets a bit confused sometimes and doesn't trigger properly. Whereas if you have it -1 or 1, it triggers more correctly most of the time. So if it goes greater than minus, goes greater than -1, it is going to auto cannon rotor is going to reset the velocity. There you go, it stops now. And what I'd also like it to do is stop that. In fact, I'd also like it to turn that light off at the end of that cycle, rather than just turn it off here. Take that out of there for now. So that should turn it on, kick it into gear. And there we go. It turns off and it resets. Now I'll give that a little test run. Definitely aiming at stuff. Right, and there you go. That resets itself. Right, so the next one's to do their rotor, their hinge. Yeah, they're both set up. They seem set up fine. Oh, also, we need to set up the hollow side before we go any further. Next images. 3 red center 25 danger. auto cannon. Control that on and off. Also cannon on, off, trigger, off, on, trigger. Cool. So now that turns off and turns on the gun. We can refine that later. Right, so we need to build a few more LCDs. Flare launchers. Ah, that's the wrong way around. Assault cannon. So yeah, right. Okay, let's do the tail. Just look at that. So, azimuth rotor, tail rotor, C01. Tail hinge, C01. Camera. Tail. Salt cannon. Actually, no. The bottom one doesn't want a salt cannon. Just the top. Left and right. Up and down. Left and right. Cool. Everything is as it should be. That's got that on. Tail rotor C02. That's the new share inertia sensor on. There we go. That's a bit better. Left and right, back and forth, back and forth. It just needs some tweaks to the hinge settings. Or maybe the rotor settings. You know what, let's give it a little bit more juice. There we go, that's a bit better. Still got a bit of bounce. Tail. Controller 2. So we want tail C02 rotor. There you are. To hinge. Tail camera. And this one does want to control that gun. 10. Take that off there. Control. And we are the right way around to begin with. Cool. So, if we take both of them, turn the AI on, have it target friendlies, there you go. Yes, we need to tweak some of those tail settings. And it needs to come back 50. And give it 35. That's all right. That's a point now. give that a bit more. And this one. Right, so that theoretically has a tail. That will aim around as we're walking. Clunk. Oh, there we go. Right. Well, I'm going to pack that in there for now and go get something to eat and have a cup of tea, and I might come back to this in an hour or so. I'll see you later, guys.